Yeah.
Back to what we were doing already.
Right, exactly. And you know what else is back to what we were doing already?
What's that?
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Pixel. My name is Kevin. With me, as always, Phil. And on today's show, we're going to continue through Fire Warrior, a Warhammer 40k story based on the video game Fire Warrior, written by Simon Spurrier, set in the Warhammer 40k universe. Warhammer, Fire Warrior, Warhammer Warrior. Is that anything? Sure.
Warrior. Oh, I tried to make war and war. I'm an idiot.
You tried to make war
it's
and
already
warrior,
a word.
like into.
I tried to combine Warhammer and Warrior, and I was like, oh, that's already a word.
It would have to be a Warhammer.
A war. See? You're better at this. God damn it. Warhammer. That's like
Warhammer.
that's the pig version of the 40k universe.
Yeah.
Warhammer.
You know how there's like Spider Pig in across Spider-Verse? In Spider Pig's universe, it's Warhammer.
Yes, exactly. I love it.
40,000 feral hogs running across my lawn. Now that is a deep Twitter cut right there.
That's one from the vaults.
From the vaults.
That's good.
And I'll look it up, and it's like every time I'm thinking like, yeah, that thing happened years ago, and I'll look it up, and it's like a month ago.
Exactly.
Anytime I think a reference is old, for some reason, it's just been 40,000 cycles have happened in between then and now.
That's how fast it moves these days.
Is 40,000 just one of those numbers that people use because they don't feel like counting? You know, those old, back in Norse times, it was like the 9 realms because 9 was such a big number that they were like, fuck it, there's 9 of them.
There's 9 of them. That's how many there are. What?
What? Or 7 or whatever, one of those ancient numbers where it was just a stand-in for uncountable.
Unbelievably vast. Too much, in fact. Too much.
Too many people. Too many realms.
Too many realms.
Chapter 3.
All right. Chapter 3. Now we're going to find out in this episode, ladies and gentlemen, why it's usually Kevin who walks us through these.
Let's do it.
Because I have volunteered to do it. Because you may have noticed that all of my shit is gone. Kevin, did you notice
yes.
that?
I just noticed that.
Look at that.
Yeah. Why is that? Why is all of your shit gone from your office?
Well, that's because we're converting my office into a nursery. Because my wife and I are having a babby.
A babby?
A babby. We're having a babby in December, and we kept it from all of you because we hate you.
We hate you.
We hate you. No, it's out on social media by now. You guys probably, this is old news, but Kevin has very kindly chosen to take over for some paternity leave for me starting the beginning of 2024. And we're going to have some guests on and everything like that. And actually, next year, we're going to start with us going back and forth on taking the
book
reins.
rotation.
Yeah, exactly. On who leads with these things. And we're starting with this one because Kevin's been working his tail off, making sure that all of the first quarter, basically, of 2024 is looking bright and shiny in my absence. And so I foolishly volunteered to take the lead on this one.
Oh yeah, I can do it. How hard is it?
I can do this. How hard could it be? It's not great. And that was actually in the process. It's no joke. I texted Kevin. I said, next year, how about we cycle? We'll alternate. Because I never fully realized how much goddamn work Kevin puts into. I already knew how much work Kevin put into editing these things and like all the fucking like behind the scenes shit and the blog and I knew all of that. But then I was like, oh yeah, of course I'll take the lead on this one. And I looked at chapter 3, which I had already read, and I went, oh no, I don't speak English anymore. How did this happen? So we're going to go through this carefully. But the fact of the matter is it's 3 chapters and it goes back and forth a lot, as we've seen. And the good news is that there are, based on what we talked about in the first section, a lot of the same twists. We're going to meet somebody very intimately for about 5 seconds, and they're going to die.
They're going to die. We're going to even learn like the reason why they joined the like Guardius Militarum or whatever the fuck.
The Guardius Militarum.
Whatever. It's just fake Latin words.
Imperial Guard at this point.
Yeah.
But Guardius. I wish it was that. Guardius Militarum.
Guardius Militarum. It's just
I don't know, man. I don't speak Latin.
Just think about it. Just be like, well, what would the Imperial Dog Walker be? And it's Adeptus Caninicus or something like.
Yeah. You're probably not that far off by it. You're probably not that far off. I mean, you got the Canis part right. Come on.
Adeptus Canis Mechanicus Militarum.
There you go. Great. Of the War Dogs.
Of the Yorkshire Legion.
Yeah. I was about to say it's all these toy poodles and shit.
It's just little Yorkies in space armor
and a tiny
ultramarine armor.
Dog servo skull.
Oh,
just checking everything out.
Just floating around behind them,
Oh, I love that.
And that was the Emperor's dog. That was the God Emperor's dog. People don't know this. It's like the deep darkness of the lore. But God Emperor, I mean, he's been alive for so long. Do you know how many dogs he's had in his life? So many. There's actually a planet dedicated to his dogs. It's just his dog funeral home. There's just servitors floating around, tending to, making sure everything is dusted and all that stuff. See, I could be a Warhammer 40K author. I could do the that Magic the Gathering pack, like that was just like joke cards. I could do the Warhammer 40K version of that.
Oh, that would be good. I would love to see that. That would be good. Written by some. It's kind of like those memes that you see where it's like asking someone who's never played Mega Man to name all of the Mega Man bosses and stuff.
Yes,
the Robot Masters. And we really ought to do that with Captain.
Yeah, just throw some Warhammer 40K in front of me, and I'll be like, you know what? I got it. I can work some fake Latin out into this one.
Yeah. It's all that. It's actually hilarious to talk about Latin. I recently had an interview that I did with a creator. I go check out my show on the Onyx Path Publishing. Meet Your Makers. I interviewed Michele, who is an Italian game designer who I've worked with before, and I double checked the pronunciation of his name because it's spelled Michelle.
Right.
And I was like, well, I know that's not right. So I said, is it Michele? And he said, yeah, it's Michele. And Mazzala is the last name. And I'm thinking Marsala.
Marsala.
And I said, and he said, it's funny because I said, I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm not the only person to fuck that up. And he said, no, but it's funny because you English speakers, he said, I find that you're so uncomfortable speaking with an Italian accent. And I said, well, it's because you guys actually, the language is music. Like you actually sound a little bit like the stereotype that people make of it, where it's like, it's lilting and notes and that kind of thing. It is that on a certain level.
I just insulted all of our Italian listeners, but all of them.
And I said, you'll forgive me. My language is all grunts and guttural shit. And he says, very matter-of-factly, he said, well, my people were founding Rome and your people were the barbarians at the gate. And I went, I looked at him, I said, you're goddamn right we were.
Oh, God, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
I was like, you are correct. I'm not gonna. I don't
You
take
are
that
correct,
as an insult
sir.
in the slightest. Just
There's-
paint me up in woad.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start it out. Chapter 3 starts out. I think this is a really interesting opening. We're back to Governor Severus, who
Yes.
is sitting in his pompous plush cabin, thinking about basically what brought him there, like the tip-offs he's received, and knowing the Tau were coming, and everything like that. And basically, we're getting a very kind of a look into something else that's going to happen, because basically up until this point we've been led to believe that he's just this shitty, selfish fop,
just a blundering diplomat,
right
That's about it.
But now we're starting to get the impression that something darker is amiss.
Darkness.
And the darkness. And we get a tiny voice in his mind, words hissing like blistering flesh, whispered soon. And I went, oh, chaos. Got it.
Okay, yeah, that's where this is going. There's only one direction that this can go. It's the Imperium. So where are we going to go with the opposite of the Imperium, basically?
Right. Well, any 40K game that I've ever played that starts with one enemy that isn't chaos always ends with chaos.
Yes.
The first Space Marine game started the same way. It started you fighting orcs with the Imperial Guard, and then suddenly chaos shows up. And the next Space Marine game is Tyranid centric, and so I have to believe that at the second act, chaos shows up. Right. That's just. It's good to keep things varied, I suppose.
By the way, that's supposed to release this year still. I don't think we have.
That's what they said. Do we know? I mean, did we?
We don't have an official date. Just late 2023, and we're in late 2023. So,
if you say so, guys.
The only thing I'll say is that the only game the only Warhammer 40K game I've played that immediately was chaos right off the bat was Bolt Gun.
Bolt Gun, yeah, and that made sense because it was trying to be Doom. So let's just start with the satanic.
Let's just start right out with the satanic bit,
Yeah. That's just that made perfect sense. I do hope if they do an expansion for that we get some orcs or something, because that seems to me the most obvious next one. Maybe some nids. Nids would be fun. I'm a nid player for anyone who hasn't already figured it out. Okay, at this point, we are back to the Tau, who are still going to war, basically. Let me see. Is this the part where I'm just asking Kevin for his help, even though I'm the one to take the lead. Is this basically where have we gotten to the point where they're circling the blade? Or is that later on?
Yes. They are not quite yet. I believe they're just like, this is the part where they find out that the Enduring Blade is trying to board them.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So they're,
because two things happen in this chapter. One, they're boarded, and then they do a retaliatory boarding or something like that.
Yeah, basically, they get boarded by the Imperium, but they start to pretty quickly realize that they have bitten off more than they can chew. That the Imperium is kind of fucked. They're dead in the water on a certain level. I forget what. Yeah, they're just outmaneuvered, outgunned, and what they have to do is they got to do the old switcheroo and reverse board on the Imperial vessel, which doesn't take it seriously at all until you get these great little transcriptions of the Imperial officers arguing amongst themselves about what to do next. And finally, it's only at the very last second that they're like, oh shit, Tower on their way.
Yes. And a lot of this, so there's a lot of scenes in here with Lakai's basically just doing his murder simulator stuff, where he is just killing the absolute shit out of groups of Guayla soldiers. And it's there's a lot of there's a lot of back and forth, as you said, between the Imperium officers, and eventually, Lakai's as the main character of the video game does his best to force the Imperium soldiers back, which it doesn't seem like there was I don't think there wasn't a big Space Marine presence on the boarding party. It didn't look like.
No, they did. We do get to, well, is it on the Blade where the Raptors show up?
No, the Raptors show up. So what happens there? What happens with the Raptors?
Okay, so it's kind of hilarious. We have about 5. We've got a little squad of Raptors, and the Raptors are a small sub chapter of I forget the name of the original chapter, but the original chapter is very sneaky and stealth oriented, which is hilarious when you consider these are living tanks. It's super funny, and at this point, oh yes, okay, so. Our hero, our protagonist, has boarded the Imperial vessel, and he's literally pulling a xenomorph. He is crawling through the ventilation systems and sneaking around, and we get he sees he's basically above where the Raptor Marines are, and it's hilarious because it is just the wafer, the little charm that his dad gave him, falls out of his uniform and clanks on the chute enough that the Marines just hose the ceiling, just like, and he's got to scramble and run and back off, and you've got. And I got to tell you, we talked about this with his fight with the single Marine in the last section. This book does a great job of making Space Marines seem kind of incompetent.
Sure.
To a point that I question it, to be completely honest.
The Space Marines in this book are just a little... they were a little too much like the characters from what's that movie? Final Destination. So somebody always told me that the kids in Final Destination were basically water balloons filled with blood.
Yes.
And where it's just like, they get killed in these grotesque ways, but when they die, it's just blood and guts everywhere. And that's basically what's happening with the Space Marines in this section of the book, is that every time Lakai's kills one, it's just like the shell of their armor cracked open and their blood and guts spilled out onto the deck of the ship, and like the head fell off, and the body didn't realize the head fell off and is trying to pick up the blood and guts, but the head is fallen off.
It's true. They're water balloons filled with ragu. It's pretty fucking gross. And I said this in the last episode, and I'm sure there's something to this decision, but they do feel a little better than orcs at times. They're very barbaric. Which I'm sure is how the Tau would see them. But every story you've ever read with Space Marines is they're tactical geniuses. They're not just meat. But okay, fuck it, whatever. We've got these guys, and Kai's is like slowly picking them off to the point where finally, I think we're down to like 3. He like picks off 2 of them or something, and then we're down to 3. And we get it from the Space Marines' point of view, and they see this little buzzy thing, this little robot glowing thing.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Coming towards them, and he's like trying to shoot it out of the sky, and it's going way too fast for him to do it. And I think at the end he goes to grab it, and so he could crush it. And the narrator points out that he absolutely would have crushed it if it weren't for the fact that that's exactly the moment that it fucking explodes.
Yes. Lakai's basically, drops a tiny little, drone into the hallway, and just like pilots it like buzzes around until it absolutely detonates and kills a bunch of space marines, which is
ends
amazing.
them. Yeah, and it's once again to what Kevin was saying. It's just a room filled with gore, and I do think it's funny that this happens a lot in this book where Kai sees this just bloodbath, and he points out that, man, if that was real looking blood, I'd feel sick, because Tao's blood is like cyan, light blue colored. So like all this red crimson gore just looks silly to him. It doesn't look quite the same.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's lucky.
Yeah. So and right now we're kind of combining chapters 3 and 4, which is So chapter 3 is the Imperium gets onto the Tau ship. The Tau repel them. Chapter 4 is Lakai's goes on to the Imperium ship and starts killing the shit out of them.
Executing everybody.
Right before he gets to the this moment where he kills the rest of the Raptors, he finds a random room where everything is. I have it highlighted here. A thin strand of redness parted company with the ceiling and fell, a syrupy teardrop that pattered lightly against the slick grill decking. He couldn't guess how many Guela had been there originally. The shreds of clothing and weaponry lying embedded amongst the pulped meat and was silent testament to their multiplicity. A dozen different articles of fabric and leather lying shredded within the gore. It was as if the chamber had decompressed suddenly, hurling the flesh from its helpless inhabitants across the floor and walls and ceiling. Anonymous strands of gore dappled the interior, slug-like lumps of tissue and muscle that slithered glutinously with the pull of gravity, flopping us obscenely to the deck to vent their liquid cargo into the gullies on either side. Clumps of hair broke up the light-catching wetness. Half-sliced skulls stared in mute horror, eyeballs plucked and dangling, tongues bitten and lacerated in grisly astonishment. An arm, messily dissected at the elbow, grasped uselessly at the air, 3 fingers shredded to a pulp. A pink foot flopped from a fleshy stalactite above Kai's head with a wet slurp and a squelch.
It's so gross.
So this is basically what he finds.
Yeah.
Just walking around the ship, and Lakais is like, okay.
Yeah, because he's like, we didn't do that. That's not the kind of shit Tau would do.
Right. He's there and he sees all this, and then all the other Tau Shazlas, which are basically like privates in the Tau army, like catch up to Lakais and see the room, and they have to take off their helmets because they start vomiting.
Yeah.
when they see this room.
I love it. And it's another hint that we're getting that something's amiss, that something's wrong, that isn't just
there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
And all this time every time we get cutbacks to Severus being like
yeah, we do get that a lot. We get a lot of just like little moments from Severus where he's just marveling at his own evil. It's fucking hilarious. I swear he has a curled mustache that he's playing with. It's that level of villain, which is another kind of trope within 40K. If you read enough 40K, it's like the guy who always betrays you is the fucking governor of the planet or the mayor or whoever's in charge, like, of the human leadership. It's always the politician, and he always is wrangling with some Xeno or some demonic force or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And during all of this too is so there's like a couple point of view characters that we keep rotating between. We got Kai's, we got Severus occasionally. We got. Do you recall what the name of the Ultramarine captain is?
Hold on. I was just looking at. Now that guy is kind of interesting, and even he is kind of a Chad of a dope of a man. Where did he go? I've got it right here. Ardius.
Ardius.
Yeah.
Ardius and the librarian of the Ultramarine chapter that he is the captain of. I forget his name. I think it's something like Delphonicus or whatever.
Yeah. It sounds like the producer of like 80s hip hop.
He's Del the Funky Homo Sapienus.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, they're so all this time, like the Ultramarines are like, we have to go fight these Tau. We have to, and the librarian is like, no, you have to stay here.
Yes, because he's seen some kind of vision where he feels like the Marines will be needed after this fight wears itself out, that something worse is coming than the Xeno threat. And the Ultramarines, Ardius is kind of suspicious of him, not because he, it's weird. This part's weirdly written again too, because he points out that the Ultramarines, the codex of the Space Marines that the Ultramarines kind of hold dear, kind of has a shaky relationship with its psychers, with its librarians.
Yes.
I don't know how. I'm not a big Ultramarines guy, so maybe I'm off the mark here, but that seems weird to me because at this point, now if you read me Horus Heresy, psychers and stuff are very sus, and there's a whole thing. But like you get to a point where most chapters are pretty cool with them, even the Space Wolves who have their own thing, but it's totally psychers. And so he's like desperately trying to get everyone to stick around and to not, pile into the fight. Let the Raptors, go and all that stuff. Let them, because these Raptors have volunteered like very quickly. They got super excited about like the opportunity to get in there and kick some ass. And he's like, yeah, let them go. We're going to be needed later. And that is not playing ball with how the Ultramarines want to do it, because they've got, they've got a real sense of honor, and frankly, they got a little bloodlust going. They're ready to get in there and kick some ass too.
They're horny for killing, which that's whenever you hear somebody say bloodlust, that's all that means is horny for killing.
Yeah. Just instead of Astroglide, you use blood. It's very it's not effective. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Just don't do it.
Not going to take that conversation in any other direction.
No, that's it. That's it. We do get some sections here in chapter 3 from the point of view of the naval officers, and I always like these sections because if you play 40K, whether in the video game world or in the tabletop world, Space Marines are ubiquitous. Everyone has Space Marines. It's not a question of whether or not you play Space Marines. It's which chapter do you play.
Right.
So it's nice to be reminded. You get these Space Marines making their way onto the bridge, and naval officers are there who've only ever heard of Space Marines, who've only ever heard, because they only show up when shit is really, really bad. And so you get a really cool opportunity to see the awe, because that's Adeptus Astartes. They are angels to these people. They are 1,000 feet tall and 1,000 feet wide, and they have no necks, and they're,
the necks are gone. They actually remove them in when they're trying to upgrade them for Space Marine
you convert
duty.
the neck into that second heart we talked about.
Yeah, just take that, put that right there.
Neck.
Neck meat.
Yeah, neck meat, exactly. So you get a lot of that, and I think that's really cool. I thought that was really neat. And that's when you get the Raptors kind of rushing in to go and kick some ass and end up getting blown to Kingdom Come by a little drone bomb, which hadn't been mentioned before, by the way.
Right.
There's another piece of the arsenal that I don't know. Do you remember? I don't remember in any of the playthroughs I watched. Do you remember if that was a weapon you could use? Or
I mean, I only watched the one and kind of skimmed through it, so no,
That's
I don't.
totally fair.
I don't recall that being a weapon, but I mean, it's cool. It's neat. I don't know how
totally
practical it is, but. And I'm not sure why the Imperium wouldn't have those just like floating around all the time in all places, you know?
Right. Just like, why not? Now, and of course, we do get a little taste near the end of this section of like why that kind of shit doesn't fly with some Space Marine chapters, and it's because they're stupid. And it's. I had a friend once who was like, "Why? It's the future." And these guys are going into war. They don't have camouflage or anything. They're wearing like bright red armor. Some of them wear bright yellow armor. Like they are so easy to see. There's no tactics to it. And I'm like, yeah, they've done a pretty good job of basically making the lore that the Space Marines are like, no, we don't hide, except for a couple of chapters. They're like, we're like, right here. We're not afraid of you.
It's honor to they're big on honor for some reason. Honor in genocide. That is their like. That is their basic. Their thing. That's their fetish, right?
Honor and genocide. I mean, that's kind of. I can't believe there hasn't been a book called that yet.
Honor and genocide.
Honor and genocide.
Or xenocide.
Well, that actually, that would have to be. That would be more. More. Yeah. So we do get a section here where the Space Marines come in and just obliterate everybody in a Tau. One of the bridge sections of their ship, I want to say, and are trying to interrogate them to find the ethereal, because the whole point is they're trying to find that ethereal, get him back. And we get another cool moment where like this is a nice juxtapose to the way that like human officers react to the Space Marines. This just worker on board this deck is getting threatened by the Space Marines, and he says, "I'm not afraid of you, Guela." You know, just they have this kind of inner peace with their roles. At least some of them do, and that's kind of what we're getting into with the theme of the Tau here. That they're trying to make everybody into a cog, and you got people like our protagonist who cannot. Who is naturally bucking against that, and then you've got people who, like, when faced with certain death, are kind of at peace with their role and like, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not, I'm not really worried about this. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Let's see, guys. That gets us into chapter 4.
And that's when Kai's is killing raptors with the bombs and all that stuff.
Kai's is killing raptors.
And Delphonicus is like, hey, stay here.
Yes, that's right.
I see the masked terror, and it's going to. You need to be here for it.
Yes,
and like,
one little thing, not little, but kind of a funny detail. At the end of chapter 3, after Kai's last firefight, basically, a bolter shell hits him in the helmet, but does not explode.
Yep.
It lodges itself in his helmet, like just this 1 in a billion odds thing of this bolter shell just sitting in his helmet, but not exploding. It should have taken his head and probably, let's face it, his upper torso with him. But it's this. And I loved this detail because to me this felt like, we're building legend here. Yeah, that's a detail that grunts are going to talk about and whisper about and everything like that. I really like
even when they did hit him, it wouldn't kill him or something like that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Let's see. So these fake time things. They never do explain to us like a deck. Is that like 90 minutes or something like that? We get something along those lines.
A deck is, it is. They measure their basic unit is 90 minutes instead of. They explain at one point that it's 90 minutes instead of an hour is how their basic unit works. And there's also Tausiers or Tausiers. So I was
And was that like that was like yeah.
That's a year. A Tausier is a year, I think.
Okay.
So there's a funny aside where I'm listening to the book. There's no audio book version of this, but I found out that if you have it on Kindle, you can force Alexa to read it to you.
Oh, nice.
So I was like having Alexa read it to me, and some funny pronunciations. The funniest one was the Tausier became Tossers.
Oh,
five tossers from. And I'm like, thank you, Alexa.
Thank you, Alexa. You remain the best part of this whole process. My God.
Yeah. So. Yeah, they do talk about the deck at one point. I think in another chapter, they've been using it all the time, and it's explained once in chapter 5 that it's 90 minutes.
Okay, that makes sense then, because I don't remember where I got it in my head that was how it was supposed to work, but it is okay. Also, we get throughout this chapter 4, we get Kai's reuniting with a bunch of grunts, basically. For a while, this is before he goes off and murders some raptors. I really jumped ahead with that one. I liked that section.
It's a good section.
This is the scene that Kevin was talking about, where he finds the room filled with just gore and everyone's
the gore room.
The gore
room of gore.
Yeah. Which, if you don't have a gore room, what are you doing?
Guess what? This is just the first gore room that he finds.
Yeah. That's how fancy this ship is.
The ship has multiple gore rooms.
Yeah, and it's just, and you do get these moments where Kai's is already. It's hilarious because I don't know how long it's been since this book started, but it couldn't be more than days.
Yeah,
and Kai's is so jaded, and he has gone full 50-yard stare. Just full metal jacket, out of his mind.
The hilarious thing is there's an aside in, I think it's in the next chapter, but it's amazing. It just ties into this bit because before this, his only job, like, he was in training, and then the way the book starts, it makes it seem like he was in training and then he deployed here. And we're like, no, before this, his job was he was just a guard. Yeah. Like, he would do guard duty for things, and he had discharged his weapon once, and that was to kill an animal that was brutally murdering a merchant or something like that.
Yeah. and that ended up being a shit show, didn't it?
Like, and that was its own shit show because it was like some tribal chief's favorite dog.
That's right.
Or
it was
whatever.
Like his dog or something. Yeah. So they were pissed off about that. So he has gone from sweet summer child with daddy issues, to Gomer Pyle, Full Metal Jacket in the bathroom.
Yep.
In a matter of days.
Yes.
Which is silly, but you know what? For the purposes of this book, it makes sense.
With the volume of shit that he goes through, it makes sense. So and so he's killing the raptors. He basically kills everything on the ship. Yeah, at this point,
he overloads an engine or something at some point, and just fucking annihilates everybody.
The ship is dead in the water at this point. There's nothing to do. And my favorite moment in this chapter. So there's nothing left. The Mastar comes for Delphonicus.
Oh, is this his scene? I love this scene. Yeah.
The Mastar comes for the librarian and the captain of the Ultramarines. And basically, we still don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Except everybody, almost half of the Ultramarines get killed in an instant.
Yeah.
And we find out that Severus basically did this on purpose. We get some interstitials from Severus where we're like, oh yeah, well the guy did he did his duty. He kept the Ultramarines in one place and now they're just sitting ducks.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And while all this is happening, we've got the Kais running through the labyrinth of the guts of this ship and that kind of thing. It it's the gameplay. It's the
gameplay. He finds a melt gun, which
finds a melt-a-gun. Yes,
melt-a-gun, which is was one of my favorite guns in Bolt Gun.
Yeah,
because it ran out of fuel very fast, but the amount of damage output it did. So what a melt-a-gun is, it basically just shoots out, it's not a flamethrower. It shoots out a column of superheated air.
Yeah, it's like a microwave from hell.
It's like the microwave from hell.
Yeah.
So he finds it, he's like, it talks about how Lakai's is like, Kai's found the melt-a-gun in a cathedral, on the ship,
which is such a that's the video game moment. You just show him like, oh,
it was another gory scene in a cathedral. He finds the melt-a-gun. Yeah, he's like he's like playing with all the buttons, and he's like, well, the only button I need to know is how does it fire. Which is just an amazing little, that's a great line. And he's
terrific.
He uses this. He gets to the bridge of the Enduring Blade. He's taken out the engines. He gets to the bridge, and the only person missing from the bridge is the Admiral. So he opens the door and he just fires the melt-a-gun. And we get so many wonderful descriptions of people melting in this scene.
It's if you for the melt-a-gun in tabletop, it's a tank buster. That's what you use it for. You use it to melt through armor and blow up tanks and shit. So if you're firing it upon like unarmored bridge crew, it's like pouring burning gasoline on an anthill. It's just a fucking nightmare.
He's like, the guy screamed, and then as he's screaming, his jaw falls off.
Yeah. Oh, it's horror. I gotta tell you, Spurrier is good at the gore. He's very good at it.
Yeah.
If that's the right word.
I'm looking up the exact scene. Is this it? Oh yeah. So basically the people are screaming. You got one guy saying, "Deck officer to me. Ah, sweet mercy, my foot's gone. Oh, living God." You got people yelling, "Kill it." Trio of servitors, blade limbs grasping out for him, slunk away like snow devils in the sun, their flesh peeled off in a second, leaving asymmetrical frames to twitch and shudder. The last few Guela, hair singed and clothes scorched, exchanged terrified glances and sprinted clear. He enveloped them in the fusion stream and watched, hearts racing, as they floundered and flapped and became part of the deck.
Yeah. Fucking brutal, dude. Like... Jesus Christ. It's fucking mental.
And then there was silence.
And then yeah. It's fucking amazing. Now, one of the things that you were getting at before with Delphius is Delphonicus, Delphius Del Rio. He is freaking out. He is having like psychic feedback, and he knows something is near, something horrible is near, and we get this. And at this point, the captain and frankly the other Ultramarines are like, "What is his problem?" Like they're basically,
what is your major malfunction?
It's exactly it. They're just like, which, and I would think if you've got a guy here who's his thing is he has psychic powers, I'd be like, maybe we pay attention, take that seriously, because that seems like a lot. And then he looks Ardias in the face and says something like, he's like, I'm about to die. And then the horror, the demon horror just splits through the wall and carves right into his heart. And like Kevin said, like takes out a bunch of the Space Marines and just fucking gets out of Dodge. And one of the last moments that Delphius has alive is because now it's like, oh, do I have your attention now, Captain? Is it okay if I'm a little freaked out now, Captain? Because suddenly Ardias is like, I never doubted you for a second, my friend. I'm sorry. This sucks. And you get this really cool moment where he's fighting in his final moments to warn Ardias of the demonic influence and everything, and he loses his willpower in the final moments, and Severus, using the demon, basically psychically implants himself in the librarian's head and tells him to stop, like make sure that you stop the war, that you stop what's happening. Whatever happens, that has to be the case.
That's your goal.
That's your goal. And the librarian's inner monologue tells us this is incorrect. This is not what I wanted to say. Somebody else said this. Somebody else planned it. But Ardias is like, because he fucked up. So he's like, absolutely, with my dying breath, I'll make sure it happens. And so they're royally screwed.
They are.
And we get another little flashback to Severus feeling very pleased with himself. And
he's very pleased with himself. He's rubbing his nipples on this at this moment.
Probably. I mean, God. Again, we've mentioned this before, but the character in the Frighteners, who the real spooky detective taking his shirt off and he's burned his nipples off and he's covered in my body is a flesh patchwork of pain or something like that, and just like that's every chaos guy you've ever met. Like he's just covered in ritual scarification. He probably has hemorrhoids, stuff like that. So let's see.
So there's basically that scene then with Lakai's melting everybody on the deck.
Yeah, that's right.
And he gets, the Admiral comes back to the deck, finding everybody dead. And Kai's like puts a knife to his neck.
That's right. Yeah.
And is holding him hostage and like slices his neck a little bit, just to
show him he's serious.
Just to show him he's serious. And then comes back around. The Ultramarines, Ardias comes in and is like, "All right, just step away from him." The Admiral's like, "What are you doing? Why are you letting him go?" And Ardias is like, "We got to just stop everything. We got to stop the conflict for now because there's a greater threat." And I understand why this is Severus's plan, because like the Tau have Severus and the ship that Severus is on dead in the water. Mm-hmm. Like the Tau can just win and go home if they wanted to. And Severus needs the Tau to stop basically their assault. And the only way to convince them to do that is because if they wanted to, once Kai blows the engine, it's game over. They could basically just be like, all right, blow up destroy the Enduring Blade, game over, move on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And another thing that we're going to find out is Severus also wants as many living people there as possible for the shit he is trying to pull off.
Yep.
Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. And but that does bring it into that chapter, and we get this really weird section in the next chapter, chapter 5, where we get basically the Admiral and Ardias are basically arguing over what the fuck is going to happen here. What are you talking about? And we're going to parlay with these Tau. And Constantine, the admiral, is disgusted at the prospect of this.
Disgusted at it.
Absolutely. And Artis is not thrilled about it, but he is basically taken to heart everything he's seen with Delphonica, and wants to make sure that he does right by him, because he was right about. Well, he was right that he was about to die.
Yeah, he picked it. He called it.
Yeah, swish. Nothing but net. And,
nothing but net.
Nothing but net. So they've invited this entire clutch of the all of the high-ranking cast members of the Tau Ethereals and to show up to parlay, and the Tau are doing it because they're like, well, we could win, but we don't want to kill a bunch of people if we don't have to. Because
right.
We're cool.
Their whole deal is let's if we can win by diplomatic means, let's take the opportunity.
Yeah,
exactly. That's just the Tau's way of doing things. They don't want no more wasted life if we can avoid it. And basically, I always get the impression with what they're doing is just we have to be the bigger people. We have to be the bigger people. You know what the Tau is? The Tau is the Star Trek of Warhammer.
Very much so.
They're not there to kill. They can, but they're not there to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we get this little verbal sparring because Artis, the Ultramarine, he just leaves the admiral. He's like, you take care of it, which I wouldn't have done because he is so not on board. So why are you going to leave them alone?
Artis is like, we're doing this, but I'm not a diplomat, so you do it. And it's like, I'll be over here. Good luck. I hope
everything's counting. We're all counting on you. Good luck. And so we get this bit of verbal sparring, and the Tau kind of a little cocky and hey, we could. And rightfully so, because the admiral is trying to be like, no, the first chance we get, we drop you guys. And like, what are you talking? You're dead. You're sitting ducks.
You're sitting ducks. The admiral is being as racist as he possibly can. While he's talking to them.
Yeah.
Which
it's
is
a race that doesn't exist in the real world, and it still made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, which is, that's a negotiation tactic. That's a way. That's like a thing, I guess. You can do.
It's kind of hilarious because at some point he says they were like, if we started this fight up, you'd have 5 seconds and then you guys would all be dead. And he says something like, well, it's better to die with my convictions intact. And they're like, and someone says well, why don't you then? I don't know. The Ultramarines are being weird right now.
They're telling me to do stuff and it makes me uncomfortable. Yeah, I just want to be dead with dead,
Yeah, that's it. I wish I could just be dead. And so and this is great. So this is all happening. And the most and remember when we said you were going to get more scenes where you're going to get to know somebody and they would die almost immediately? Yeah. None of them have quite the gravitas as the legend of Trooper Moyles. Trooper Moyles. Trooper Moyles, an Imperial Guardsman, as the book puts, an uncomplicated individual. And you basically learn that he signed up for the Imperial Guard because there was nothing really else for him to do. His IQ's marked down as 75. He, quote, he had never, ever succeeded in anything in his life. But the Guard accepted him, showed him which direction to point his gun, trained him until his muscles showed through the flesh on his arms and chest, and made him worth something. He'd never been so happy in his entire life. And he is on routine guard duty.
He had joined because he liked the color of the uniforms.
That's right, because he liked the color of the uniforms. And he is on routine guard duty. He is patrolling with Severus, as it turns out. They walk into the bridge where the negotiations between the admiral and the diplomatic Tau party are taking place, and he finds a knife at his neck, and basically what happens is his throat is slit, and it is the final ritual required to summon fucking chaos. And I mean that in both senses of the word.
Severus just poor Moyles. He's just like, the saddest part was he was so taken by the plush uniforms, the rousing tales of heroism and bravery, and the prospect of promotion and sliding scales of payment. He signed up without hesitation. The uniform, upon reflection, had been a poor reason to join the Imperial Guard. It had changed. It had changed since then 5 times.
Yes. Oh, Trooper Moyles.
Trooper Moyles.
We salute you, sir.
We salute you. He goes in there, gets his throat slit. Severus says some words in a language that is incomprehensible and shouldn't be uttered and heard by human or Tau ears alike. And wouldn't you know it, Chaos Space Marines are coming through portals.
Yep. It's here we are. And it's this scene. I actually laughed out loud at this because you've seen Psycho, right? The original Psycho. All right, spoilers for any of you who haven't seen Psycho, go watch Psycho. At the very end, when you find out that the killer is not indeed, what's his name? The murderer.
Norman Bates.
Norman Bates. God, I'm chastising people for not seeing it, and I can't even remember his name. When Norman Bates shows up, dressed up in his mother's clothes, wearing the wig, when you first see him, when he turns the dead body on the chair, and he comes in, and we get a look, and he's got this big smile on his face, and it always makes me laugh. And that's a great film. It's a chilling film, but that always cracks me the fuck up. This big smile, and he's got a knife, and he's pretty quickly overpowered, and that's that. Yeah. This is exactly how I imagined this scene, because what has to happen takes place so quickly that I just imagine them walking in and Severus going, and just cutting the trooper's throat. Like, what are you doing? Oh no. And it just and literally all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, all hell breaks loose. Chaos Ultra Space Marines who have been... So I just did not understand what was going on in this scene. Like, other than people were dying, we get flashbacks to a Chaos Marine's like childhood, but also beyond his childhood. Like,
okay, I think I can explain.
I don't understand how he was like a kid 3,000 years ago, but also somebody else 10,000 years ago. Like, what exactly was happening with that timeline?
Okay, what we get for a few pages are kind of back and forths between what is essentially a demon, an actual entity of the warp, a chaos demon, and a person who is a space marine, would become a member of Horus's Legion of the Luna Wolves.
Sure.
And that's one of the most interesting things about the Chaos Marines, is that so many of them have existed since the
Horus Heresy.
The Horus Heresy. They were still around from it because a lot of these demons give them insane longevity, bring them back to life. They can't die like the demons can in many ways.
Yeah,
and so what we're getting, and it's not very clear because it's totally fair that it's good. I had to read it a couple of times, but basically what starts out as we get the story of this boy on Chthonia, I believe it is, being chosen by the Marines to undergo the training and the changes and all that stuff, and then this demon that exists in the liminal spaces between reality and unreality and the warp, and essentially them eventually coming together, and him getting the Space Marine coming this close to death and surviving, and so they put him in a dreadnought, which is for those playing the home game, a dreadnought is the Space Marine version of a mech. Basically, they are these stalwart, bulky, walking tanks, and they are And they're very cool. And I remember, I think it was years of me playing the game before I realized the truth about what's in them. What's in them is a Space Marine that should be dead, but is not. And they man it. They are. If they left the Dreadnought, they would die. It's the only thing keeping them alive. And so, like, basically, this is their last hurrah. And
is to be a Dreadnought.
Exactly. And it's the demon, and in 40K lore, demons will inhabit the bodies of Space Marines, and they'll basically be a twin-souled kind of thing where it's the two of them working together, and it manifests in a lot of ways. And in this case, it's them working together in the Dreadnought to fuck shit up. And so what we've got basically is a giant chaos Dreadnought that has existed in some ways before the beginning of time. Like, it used to be a demon that fought the Eldar back when the Eldar were a plentiful race,
right?
And a Space Marine who's as ancient as a Space Marine can possibly be, essentially.
Sure.
And so we get a back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's really interesting. Good news / bad news. It's basically just another one of those, and then they died horribly things when our protagonist Kai's just obliterates them. And you were talking about them cracking open and being full of goop and all that stuff. I think this one was particularly effective because the shell of the Dreadnought breaks open and he sees this horrible, deformed, the remains of the ancient half-dead Space Marine inside. But and I can't blame you for being confused by all that, because that requires. I feel like you had to assume this book was going to be an entry point for a lot of people.
Right.
And it's written that way sometimes, but then you get something like this, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? I've been in this world, for a while, and I still had to kind of reread it a couple of times to figure it out.
Right.
But long story short, too late. That's what that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. It's really weird.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So it's basically this kid on Chthoniya, just to recap, kid on Chthoniya becomes a Space Marine. 10,000 years ago, there's the Horus Heresy. So 6,000 years ago, he woke up as a demon, kind of fused demon. Earlier than that, there was the Horus Heresy. Got it. So yeah, that's interesting. Like, and then and also, like, the other thing is the captain of the Space Marines is like tells the other ships.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, the Aoun and the Admiral have been kidnapped by Severus. The Ultramarines are going. He's probably has gone down onto the planet. The Ultramarines are gonna go down to the planet and get him back. And the other ships are like, do you need help? And he's like, you can send soldiers. The Ultramarines require no assistance. Stay out of our way. Also, destroy the ship. Destroy the Enduring Blade. Like, once we're off of it, just destroy the Enduring Blade. Yeah. Like, just don't take any risks. Just scuttle it.
Just blow it up. And it's terrific because he's like, he basically, we call for a ceasefire between and he reaches out to the Tau calling for a ceasefire. Basically, he also lacks some of the non-racist diplomacy that we got from Constantine, and he's like, look, there's something worse on here. The Tau don't really understand chaos. They don't what he's getting at. They think this might be some kind of trick, and which is silly because these kind of Space Marines, they don't do tricks. That's really not their way. But they don't know that. And so he basically says, look, everybody on here is getting torn to shreds by these Chaos Space Marines, these demons and shit.
Go talk to one of your other soldiers.
They'll
And
tell
they're
you.
like, all right, they key into Kais, and Kais is like, what the fuck is going on, man?
Yeah. I like to imagine that they reach out to Kais and they hear him on. They're like, "Hey, Kais, how's things looking?" Oh God, man! Oh God! Like Kais is flipping out. He is flipping out. He is snapped. There is no happy ending for Kais at this point. It's like, it's so far afield from the video game at this point where you're just like a grunt shooting things. Like Kais has lost his goddamn mind. It's going into Spec Ops The Line territory here.
Right.
Where it's like, I expect the loading screens to be mocking me. It's really, really fucked up. And they go, all right, Kais, great. Thanks, buddy. We'll get right back to you. But no, but there's like, click. And they go back to the Ultramarine. Ultramarine's like, what did he say?
And they're like, all right, we believe you.
yeah, seems plenty fucked up. So we're not going to shoot each other. And basically the Ultramarine's like, yeah, for now.
Yeah, for now. I mean, we'll get back to it later. But for now, let's put a pin in it for now because
put a pin in it. And
there's some weird shit happening.
It's
one of the other
so fucking funny.
One of the other bits was how one of these Chaos Marines killed everybody who was left on the ship that was going for the drop pods, the escape pods.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it was like he shot a beam that sliced everybody's like arms off. Or like sliced all their legs off and then sliced all their arms off so that they were just like torsos rolling around.
Yeah, it really just because it was more fun that way for him.
Because it was more fun that way. That's how it's written. Because it was more fun that way.
Because it was more fun. Yeah.
God.
So basically we come to the end and Kai's fucking hops in one of the drop pods that's going to go down because we've got a contingent of fire warriors and we've got what remains of the Space Marines. Everyone's hopping in the escape pods to head down to the planet surface to have the final confrontation with Chaos. And Kais hops in his own, flies down, and we're told at the end of the chapter that he sleeps the entire way down.
The entire way down.
Somebody wake up Hicks. It's
it's like I watched the gameplay and it's like the gameplay is like, this looks a little boring. It's like it looks fine, but it's like, and then Simon Spurrier was like, I'm going to turn this mediocrely reviewed game into a gore infested like true blue 40K book. You know?
You got to give it to him. He fucking like goes. He's like he played the game or watched people playing the game and went, "What the fuck am I supposed to?" No, all right, no, I got a lot of work to do. Is basically.
And I mean, this is still the plot of the game because they like in the game like, but still just it is gore and violent on a level that just wasn't. I guess you couldn't really show in what was it 2003 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
You couldn't effectively depict unless you were, you know, in a big like release or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
So now that we finished that chapter, Kevin, how do you feel so far? What are you thinking?
Queasy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like this section more than the first section. I think Kais himself as a character is like fine, but you can only go so far with the oh man, what if I'm the demon? And they play with that still a little bit. Simon played with that a little bit in these chapters, but then he fucking is like, nope, I'm not the demon. That's the demon. By the time the Chaos Marines show up, he's like,
everyone keeps thinking I'm the Montau. Oh, I feel like, way better now.
I'm the Montau. And then he sees Chaos Marines and he's like, He's like, yeah, that was.
It's pretty great. It is one of those moments where, you're having a really bad time. You're having like a bad month or something, things aren't going so good at your job, and maybe you don't have a girlfriend or something, you're lonely, and you're like, I'm a fucking loser. This sucks. And then you see like 5 minutes of an incel message board, and you're like,
Yep.
I'm fine. I'm not the demon. I'm that's not who I am. That's the demon right there.
You see Ben Shapiro recite the lyrics to Wet Ass Pussy, and you feel better about yourself.
Yeah. You look at Andrew Tate's in jail Twitter feed, and you're like, you know what? It's gonna be all right.
I'm gonna be all right. I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. I don't need Jordan Peterson hopped up on benzos to tell me to clean my room.
Right. I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Yes.
I'm fine. Well, how are you?
How are you? Well, now that we're fine, now that everybody's fine, Kevin, I get to do this now. I get to do this.
Oh, what are you going to do?
Well, now that we're both fine, Kevin, that leaves me with only one question left to ask you. Oh, what are you playing?
Oh, I did not expect you to. I'm completely unprepared.
Yay, this is fun.
I gotta. Oh gosh, what am I playing? So I had been playing a lot of Lies of P, and then one of my big critiques of the game and why it's sliding down my list of game of the years is the bosses are so poorly designed in terms of combat encounter balance. There is, and I know this is a big part of the whole stupid get good culture of Souls-likes, but like a lot of the time, it's like if you have the patience and whatever, you can get good just by the repetition, right? Mm-hmm. You understand what the attacks look like, you understand how to block and all that stuff. The worst thing about Souls of P or Lies of P is that it's based on more of the Sekiro / Bloodborne blocking. So blocks don't really get you much, but they have these enemies that are heavy attackers like Dark Souls, where you don't need to ever parry in a Dark Souls. If you have a build with a strong shield, you can rely more on blocking than parrying or what have you. Lies of P relies more on like the Bloodborne style where it's parrying, or Sekiro where it's timed blocking in order to throw, to like build to break the stamina of the enemy that you're fighting against. That's fine. I get that. And for most of the game, it's been fine. I've gotten to this boss though. It's called the Green Monster of the Swamp, where sometimes it'll randomly spam its unblockable attack like twice in a row, where you have to perfect parry or else you get a ton of damage. Other times it has this like tentacle attack that does way too much damage compared to every other attack. So its attacks hit you with something called decay, and decay in this is like it's a poison stat. It's a poison dot that you can acquire, and you have to cure yourself, or else you're just going to be dropping HP pretty fast. So it has this two-pronged tentacle attack where if it hits you, not only are you full on decay immediately, but it takes away almost all of your hit points. So you have decay and you lose all your HP, and then the decay dot kills you. And
Jesus Christ.
It does it'll do, like the first time I fought this thing, I got through its first phase easy peasy, right?
Yeah.
But since then, I've been having trouble getting past the first phase because the first time I fought it, it never used this tentacle attack. And then it's been using this thing where it spams it like 3 times in a row. And if it hits you, you are probably dead for that run. So I don't know. And this is not the first boss where it's just been like, it's not fun. So one of the things that people didn't like about Elden Ring, specifically the Melania boss fight, was that it's not a fun boss fight. And some of it just relies on getting lucky to get through the fight. Even though you can get really good at the fight, like the famous Elden Ring player Let Me Solo Her, which if you were lucky enough, you could wait outside of Melania's room and his summon would appear. And if he was online, you didn't have to do anything. You could just go and summon him, let him run in, and he was such a professional Melania fighter that he could solo her.
Holy
like
shit.
you could just sit by the entrance, and he would go in there and solo her. The problem is here with Green Monster of the Swamp is that and several of the other bosses with Lies of P, there's just a slightly higher percentage of bullshittery than I've played a lot of Souls-likes. I've experienced a lot of Souls-like bosses. I've beaten just about every Souls-like out there. I've played and beaten, and I will say Lies of P, after a certain point, has the highest percentage of bullshit bosses that I have run into in terms of some of the shit they do during a fight where it's just like. And the other thing is, like, Lies of P a lot of time relies on throwables, consumables, and stuff like that to like help you get through a fight. But you die, if you use them during a fight and you die, you've lost all of them.
Right.
So then you have to spend the time going to get them back. So it's
not like it refreshes after
it's not like
die.
it refreshes after you die.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there will be, the Souls-like chuds that'll be like, well, it sounds like a skill issue, and I'm like, no, it just sounds like just not a great design issue. They've had to patch down the HP of some of the bosses. Like I'm not losing my mind here.
Right.
In the fucking patch notes of the game, they've had to go and make some of the bosses easier because just people were running into it and saying, fuck it, I'm not playing anymore because it gets dumb.
You're hitting a wall where it's like, this is cheap. Like these.
And the other thing is Lies of P, unlike every other Souls-like I've ever played, where you're like, okay, I'm at this boss, I can go literally do something else. I can go to another area. That's not available in Lies of P. It's a straightforward linear game.
Oh, okay.
So you get to a point where this is like, and like other Souls-likes aren't necessarily open world, but they have they'll have branching paths, right? That you can go and fuck around with. Lies of P is linear. It's straightforward. So if you're running into a boss that's giving you trouble, you can't, there's like, I guess you can go grind, but I don't really want to, so
that's the boss you're going for.
That's the boss you're going for. That's about it.
Sucks.
It sucks. Yeah. So it's sliding down my game of the year list. I don't know where it was necessarily when I started. It was it was on the list of, and now it's like, I don't know.
Kind of teetering.
It's teetering at this point. It has to come back strong after.
Okay.
And after if I ever get through this boss. Or I just like say, fuck it, I'm playing something else now.
Which is the risk you run with this shit. Like, you gotta balance this stuff. Which sounds at least like the developers are realizing that on a certain level.
Yeah, because there was one boss who was really hard and got through him, and it was fine. And then there was just like a run of bosses that I mowed down, right? And then I get to this boss where it was like, just way too much insta-kill bullshit, basically.
Yeah.
So Yeah, Liza P. And I'm sad to say that I got back into Marvel Snap. It's back, baby.
Some of us never left, my friend.
Some of us never left, I guess. I'm back. I'm back into Marvel Snap while we were.
Yeah, I saw the Discord, you guys comparing notes and stuff.
Yes, yeah. Me and VZ and occasionally Jesse Garasha have been in the Discord to compare notes. Right now, as we're talking, it seems like, oh yeah, VZ and Harry from Video Games Are Bad have just had a full-on discussion about the ending of Outer Wilds: Echoes of the Eye, the DLC,
complete with very considerate.
It's all redacted. It's all redacted, baby.
It's almost all redacted.
So yeah, but yeah, I've been playing a lot of Snap, trying to figure out new decks to play with. I keep going back to my old tried and true, which is Apocalypse, Dracula and Apocalypse.
Oh yeah,
discard. Deck. So I focus 2 lanes and with Morbius on one and Dracula on another. And Morbius gets +2 every time you discard a card. And
I love Morbius. That one's so fun.
He's fun. And so the other wrinkle I have is I have Ghost Rider in there. And
yeah, I use Ghost Rider on that deck too.
Yeah, so and Black Cat, because Black Cat does you the courtesy of discarding herself if you don't play her. So you have Black Cat in there, she discards herself, you play Ghost Rider then pulls Black Cat in. So for the cost of 4 power, you get 12 stats.
That's nice. Nice.
It's not bad at all. So yeah, I've been playing with that. I've been trying to find another deck that I like other than that kind of discard. I did pull Thanos recently from one of the creator cache or
nice.
collector caches. And Thanos is because I found out I was like wondering how they determine things. Like series 1 and 2, everybody gets series 1 and 2. Those are the cards that you get as you play when you start the game, right?
Right.
As you're playing the game, those are the series 1 and 2 cards. Series 3 you have to get through the basic caches, and you're just going to get them over time. Series 4 and 5, series 5 cards are ones that you have to get usually under special circumstances. So that's either a brand new card. So like this season is Elsa Bloodstone, who has a lot of fun stuff going on with her. Or you got the BBEGs, the big bads, are always series 5. I didn't realize. So that's Thanos. That's Galactus. I want to say Goliath is going to stay Series 5.
Okay.
And a few others. But yeah.
I tried Goliath in my, I don't know if there's an official title for it, my Symbiote Weapon X deck where we're chopping ourselves to death and come back from the dead. I tried him with that one, and I didn't get a lot out of it.
Goliath
cool card,
Goliath apparently works really well with Galactus, where you use Goliath to basically like clear a lane, because he's kind of like he's basically like he's a little bit like Shang-Chi. Except for everything, and not just 9 power cards and up.
right. Yeah. I did get to play. I've been playing with X-23 and Lady Deathstrike in that same deck though, and here's the thing. My brother has always accused me of this, even when we were playing Magic the Gathering as kids. I love a theme that goes beyond gameplay. I just like everything to look nice and good, even at the expense of maybe winning.
Yeah.
So I call it Symbiote X. So it's like symbiotes and Weapon X characters, and
That's
I'm getting as
awesome.
many of the Venomized variants for it, and it's my little num 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 num, and I'm solidly 50-something points into the tournament, and I don't go much higher, so, which is fine as far as I'm concerned.
That's fine. Does does Deadpool count for in that
totally.
deck?
He's
okay.
He's I love him in that deck. There are some exceptions. I still have Nova in the deck, and because that's so helpful.
Do you have Hulkbuster in there?
No, I don't. Maybe you think I should.
Yes. So what I've been seeing people do is they play Deadpool and then they Hulkbuster him, and then they kill him.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he doubles to his after that, because the thing about Deadpool, I was like, oh well, he goes 2, then 4, then 8. Like, no, the goal is to, on the first double, is pump him up already. So whether that's like Forge hitting him with a +3, or a Hulkbuster hitting him with +6, and then you double him, and now you're getting 1 power
14 on the next one for
14
for 1 power. Yeah, he's a great card. He's terrific.
He's fun. And also, I've fallen in love with Jeff the Baby Landshark.
I noticed that. Yeah, you were talking about that in the Discord.
He's great. He's just he's like, so I believe he originated from the Gwenpool comics.
Okay.
Which are, I believe, were written by what's his name from Rude Tales of Magic, Christopher Hastings. No, Christopher Hastings.
Gotcha.
Chris Hastings works for Marvel on occasion, and I think Gwenpool is his character. I feel like he might have created. I don't know if he created Jeff the Baby Landshark or not, but Jeff the Baby Landshark is like, I think, is Gwenpool's pet.
I love it.
And it's just like a shark, but he has little legs like a puppy. And so one of the best thing about Jeff is that he's a 2/3, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he can't be stopped from being played in any lane. So Professor X locks down a lane, right?
Yep.
For everybody except Jeff the Baby Landshark.
Except Jeff. And I love that it's Jeff with an exclamation point at the end of it.
Yes, Jeff.
Which makes me so happy. Jeff. I love it.
Oh God. But yeah, you see the joy I have when I talk about Marvel Snap versus Lies of P.
It's that one. I mean, that's the game that stuck with us. That was on both of our Game of the Year list last year.
Yeah,
and it stuck with us this deep into the following year. That says something.
Speaking of a game from last year that made both Marvel Snap and Midnight Suns, you've seen the Midnight Suns variant cards.
Beautiful, absolutely
beautiful.
The variant. I mentioned this when we first started playing this game. I'm an old trading card fanatic. From when I was a kid, I had all the Marvel trading cards. I loved it. And these variants they're coming out with, it keeps me in the game. I might have dropped out by now, but it's like, oh fuck, I gotta try and get that now.
Yeah.
It's
the
so
Conquest
good.
tournament this year, this season is for getting is it the Iron Man variant or the Doctor Strange
variant right now? Yeah.
So I've been wanting to get that.
I love Conquest. That's such a good game mode. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. So hopefully we see some more of the Midnight Suns variants as they continue on. They usually keep making like other variant, because I imagine it would be Ghost Rider, Wanda, etc. Other games that appeared in other characters that appeared in the Midnight Suns game.
I want to see a Wolverine one. That'd be freaking tight.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah.
But Phil, enough about me. What have you been playing?
I have been playing. All right. Well, I have been playing 100 Days a lot.
Okay.
And 100 Days is a strategy winemaking sim. And I played for a while. I was playing this other strategy winemaking sim for years called Terroir, and and it was very straightforward kind of thing. Now, the thing about 100 Days that I think is really interesting, you get your plot of land, you can expand your vineyards, you can plant different grapes, upgrade your wineries and your tool shed and all that stuff, and you're trying to make the perfect bottles every year after year. And it has all this stuff that I find to be very entertaining in these games. But I think the thing that makes it stand out is its main gameplay mechanic is this funny little Tetris-y sort of thing, where in the center of your vineyard, there's a square. And how many squares are in the square depends on your upgrades. You can upgrade it to be bigger, and you want it to be bigger. Yeah. Because every job you do, whether that's every turn is basically a new season. So it's fall of this year or whatever. Right. And I can it's every a week of each season, I think. Sure. Something like that. And so this turn I can do so many things. I can get out there and weed. I can prune the vineyards. I can spray for mildew and stuff like that. And but you can only do as much as you can fit within that square, and every task has a different Tetris shape to it. So you have to kind of rotate them in there and fit them in just so, and which is just psychologically so satisfying when you get it just right. And you can slowly upgrade your plot there so that you'll get new corners of it, so you have more space to maneuver within it. And sometimes you just don't have enough space and you have to wait. And it's really challenging at first. The not just in the game itself, not just in like learning to play, but the game itself, because you kind of have to work like a dog for the first few years to get over the hump. But once you reach a rhythm, you fall into this rhythm, and it gets very relaxing, very soothing kind of game. Nice. The soundtrack's nice. The story, there's a story mode which I played through, which is great for the tutorial. But like so many things that are wine centric and based on fiction, it has just kind of a cheesy, romantic comedy kind of vibe to it, which I'm like, all right, that's enough. Let's just I just want to make a bottle of Barbera, god damn it. And it's a lot, but I've really enjoyed that. I've been playing that one off and on. Other than that, the game that's really focused all of my attention since we talked last. Yeah. Kevin, I love you. I'm not going to. I respect you. I'm not gonna lie. I beat Alien Dark Descent for a third time.
Jesus Christ. I thought you were going to go with you started playing porn games again.
We haven't gotten there yet.
But wow, a third time. That was a game where you were like, after the first time, you were like, man, fuck this game a little bit. It's not on my game of the year list. And now you've beaten it 3 times.
3 times. And I beat it on nightmare mode.
Wow.
I beat it on like it's called In Space No One Here Can Hear You Scream mode. And it's hardcore mode. So I can't lose any of my Marines. And I'm aiming for achievements now. There are like 4 of them that I need for a perfect. There's something. They have patched it. It's doing way better. But it's still got that indie jankiness to it. There's still some points that are kind of like frustrating, but I don't know. I love this game. You're absolutely right. I went from being like, fuck, they fucked it up. This was supposed to be my game of the year. I'm supposed to be, to this might be my game of the year. Despite
everything.
Despite everything. And it does feel at times like it was made specifically for me.
Yeah. So it's like, to put it in other terms, this might be your game of the year, while Baldur's Gate is standing there like Karlach while you accidentally sleep with Lae'zel.
That's basically it. Yeah.
That's basically.
And don't think I don't see the side eye from her. I get it. It's like I'm so quick to be like, a friend of mine texted me and was like, I see you're playing that game again. I'm thinking about getting it. Is it good? And no, not really. I mean, it is, but it's not. It's complicated. Like,
I don't recommend it. It's like it's the sideways thumb from the Emperor on this one.
I feel like
I recommend it for me, but not for anyone else.
Right. I feel very strongly like this game was made for me. The pacing of it is the slow and steady pacing, because it is a slow game. You cannot rush this game. You have to you have to take your time. There are so many instances where it makes way more sense just to hide from the goddamn aliens than to blow them up. There are so many factors to it that just feel like it was fucking tailor-made for me, and I'm not gonna hide my love anymore. I'm just not. It's been too good to me. Let's
not gonna hide it under a bushel.
Let's look at the board. Let's look at the board here.
Oh, he's going to the hours played board.
114 hours.
Jesus Christ.
I put 66 into Baldur's Gate 3. This is almost double.
That is upsetting.
Yeah. You're telling me.
I am upset.
I should have just lied.
You should have lied. You should have not brought this up.
I'm playing Resident Evil 4 again. I don't know. It's great.
Yeah. The Separate Ways DLC is out. Yeah, it could have been I
do need to play that. Actually, there is no excuse. I admit there's no excuse for that. I do need to play that. But yeah, while Lies of P is inching down your Game of the Year list, Aliens Dark Descent is inching up mine.
Good.
It is dramatic and beautiful, and it's actually a really good storyline too. Like, it's a very good storyline. I love it. I fucking love this game. So maybe I'll give it another shot.
I basically played my way through the tutorial and was like, I don't know.
Yeah. I will say there's only 2 solo moments, and it's the very beginning of the game. And there's like this about 2/3 of the way through, you have kind of, and I don't care for those. It's an interesting change of pace,
right?
And I respect them for putting in it, but I don't give a shit about those scenes.
Right.
But they've patched it. I think it'd be worth. It is still janky as shit.
Sure.
But it is playable.
Okay.
There's something. It's just this combination of, strategy games that I love, and Darkest Dungeon, and
sure,
it's pretty good. So that's it, though. That's it. I've been converting this fucking room, and all kinds of shit. Like, I've been busy as hell.
You've been busy as hell. You got a baby on the way. Just to reiterate, if you somehow missed the beginning of the episode, which shouldn't be a thing, you play this on demand. So
what the hell?
Phil will be out for a few months at the beginning of 2024 because he's got a baby on the way. He also has a book coming out.
I have my first baby and my first book in the same year.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
In November, I believe the plan right now is in the middle of November. We haven't got an actual date yet. We're doing a quick turnaround. It's a really great scrappy press called Psychotoxin, and we're doing a quick turnaround on it. And it's my novella Juice. It is appropriately enough based on the game I talked about today. It's a wine-centric horror satire kind of thing. It's kind of American Psycho, The Menu. If you liked The Menu,
American Psycho, The Menu, and what's that fucking wine movie?
Sideways.
Sideways.
It's like, imagine Sideways if Paul Giamatti's character murdered people.
Imagine Sideways, but the trip was Patrick Bateman going on this trip.
Actually, that's not. So that's it's my first book. It's coming out in November, and we'll get more details for that as they come.
Yeah,
I'm tired. And the kid isn't even here yet.
Kid's not even here yet. Just get used to that feeling of being tired, because
I'm just gonna live in it now. It'll just be easier that way,
buddy. Let me tell you, those first couple months are They're a thing. So, yeah, that'll do it for tonight's episode. Go to pixelatpod.com. We had a little rearrangement of our stuff. Got rid of the website. Not doing the website anymore. But you can go to pixelatpod.com, and it takes you straight to the most wonderful website in the world, which is patreon.com/pixelatpod, where you can follow us for free now. You can just follow us for free on there and get updates when we post things, or you can throw us a buck or $5 or $10, whatever you want to do. Speaking of $10, for those of you who do throw $10 into the pot every month, you get a special shout out. And we want to give a shout out to our friend of the pod, Geek Scholar, Friendly Friend.
The friendliest friend of all.
The friendliest friend of all, for being a $10 a month patron of ours. We love you for it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, yeah, social media is a roiling hellscape at the moment, but you can find us on Blue Sky.
We're on Blue Sky.
We're on Blue Sky.
We're on the website formerly known as Twitter. Kind of. It's kind of on autopilot there, but you can still find us there.
You can still find us there. We're there. Instagram, I guess. YouTube. Go to our YouTube.
Yeah, go to our YouTube.
Go to our YouTube. We're up past 160 subscribers now on our YouTube channel. So if you want to help out there, just go subscribe on YouTube and let all of our episodes autoplay, so we can get there with that we can get monetized. That would really do us a solid.
That would be pretty sick.
And yeah, you can join our Discord. There is a link to our Discord on patreon.com/pixelatpod over on the info tab. So you can go ahead, click that, join our Discord, be part of the conversation. And with that, have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Bye. Goodbye.